I'm Tracy Sable. Tonight on EWTN News Nightly, on home soil, the president and vice president greet the Americans released in a historic swap with Russia. What's next for the former prisoners? Demanding an apology. What a global group of Catholic bishops are saying about the controversial Olympic opening ceremonies. A mess in Venezuela. New developments in the socialist country's contested presidential election. And open door policy. A report from Rome on how the Vatican is preparing for the Jubilee year 2025. These stories and more tonight.
From EWTN, the Global Catholic Network, this is EWTN News Nightly.
Thank you for being with us. Our top story tonight, hours after the U.S. celebrated Americans being freed from Russian prisons, we asked President Joe Biden specifically about one American who is still being held there. Marc Fogel, the Catholic man, is a teacher from Pennsylvania who remains locked up in Russia. White House correspondent Owen Jensen reports. Owen.
Tracy, Senator Bob Casey of Pennsylvania says Marc Fogel is a teacher from Pittsburgh with chronic health issues, whose health has declined significantly during his imprisonment. And he adds, Fogel's 95-year-old mother fears she will never see her son again. Now, earlier today, as he was walking towards Marine One across the South Lawn, I shouted a couple of questions to President Biden. Take a listen.
Marc Fogel, the Pennsylvania teacher, still sitting in a Russian prison. What do you tell his family?
We're not giving up. We're not giving up on that.
What more can you do? What more can you do? What more can you do? You want me to tell you ahead of time so he doesn't get out? What do you tell his mother?
Just yesterday, Fogel's sister, Anne, described her emotions and frustration.
It's been a roller coaster. It's been a roller coaster. No sleep. I feel like we've been kind of collectively stabbed in the back.
And today, White House National Security spokesman John Kirby was asked about Fogel.
The Russians just weren't willing to throw him into the mix, and we tried many different times. I mean, from a very, very early stage here, when we knew we had to work on a new deal, we included Mr. Fogel. Regrettably, they just weren't biting at it.
But Kirby says even though they were not able to bring him home,
we learned a lot about the Russian perspective on him and his case, and we're going to hopefully be able to apply that in the conversations that we're having right now with them, and we are having those conversations now.
Biden's comments to EWTN this morning come after an emotional night at Joint Base Andrews near Washington, D.C., where he greeted a group of Americans freed from Russia.
Great satisfaction and a feeling of relief for the family.
There were hugs, handshakes, and even some squeals of joy as the former prisoners returned to U.S. soil.
This is about the essence of who we are as a country. It really is about personal relationships. It's about family. It's about being able to have access to your own, the people you love and you adore.
The freed Americans later traveled to Texas to get medical evaluations.
It was a good homecoming. So looking forward to seeing my family down here and just recuperating from 5 years, 7 months, and 5 days of just absolute nonsense by the Russian government.
The former prisoners also held a flag, recognizing other Americans who remain wrongfully detained overseas.
Now, Congressman Chris Deluzio of Pennsylvania says Fogel is serving 14 years and was detained for the possession of a small amount of doctor-prescribed medical marijuana. Fogel's family and lawmakers are urging the Biden administration to prioritize his release. His family says that Fogel still has not been designated as wrongfully detained. At the White House, Owen Jensen, EWTN News Nightly.
Okay, thank you, Owen. And let's go now to Liz Cathcart, Executive Director of Hostage U.S., a group offering support services for former hostages and families of hostages and those wrongfully detained. Liz, thank you so much for being on today. We appreciate it. You know, it's hard to imagine what these former hostages and their families have gone through. That said, can you maybe give us a sense of what life may have been like for them during that time, the conditions in which they may have lived, the treatment they have faced, and maybe how it affected them physically and emotionally?
Absolutely, and thank you so much for having me and caring about the human aspects of this, what is a horrific crime. And I have to start just by saying that, you know, any release is a victory. We are so happy to have everyone home. And on the same token, we're also hoping and that others will be released as well, and saddened by watching the families who don't have their loved ones come home. And so what folks go through is a wide variety of different challenges, right? When they're held in a cell for an extended period of time, oftentimes we see severe issues with malnutrition. They're not getting the appropriate food that they need in terms of amounts and variety and that type of thing, which can start to impact their day-to-day life. Vitamin deficiencies start becoming a serious issue when you're not getting the food that you need, which then impacts your cognitive ability and really impacts, again, your recovery process. Beyond that, the day-to-day trauma of, being woken up at various hours, being exposed to fluorescent light for long periods of time, not being able to communicate with anyone who speaks your language. These things are very severe forms of, deprivation, and you come home and you need to address that trauma, and you need to start to rebuild your life in a slow but meaningful way that gives you kind of agency over what you went through and what your life is going to look like on the other end.
Yeah, and how does your organization, Liz, help people transition back to their own lives, the life they had before they were taken and held in custody?
Yeah, it's a great question, and it's really hard is the answer. Hostage US is a nonprofit organization, and we actually walk with families throughout the duration of a hostage or wrongful detention case, supporting them with practical and emotional and mental health supports. And then when they get home, when folks do return home, like you said, we support them back onto their feet, and that initially looks like physical health checks. So these folks who returned are now in Texas doing some government medical checks. Beyond that, they're going to need some further care to make sure that their physical body is being taken care of, and they have the, like I said, vitamins they need. They have the plan to rebuild weight and muscle after not being able to, eat and exercise as they normally do. So once you take care of that immediate physical health need, then you can start thinking about the psychological needs, and those vary a lot from stress, managing stress and coping with day-to-day life, all the way through to potentially PTSD. And the positive thing is that not everyone, and in fact a small number of folks, come home and actually develop PTSD. And initially having that mental health care is imperative to making sure that they're able to address any stressors that they're facing.
Liz, we only have about 30 seconds left or so, but could you talk to us about how important support is, public support for these folks, and anything else you would like our audience to know?
Absolutely. Thank you for that question, because the public support is imperative. These situations are incredibly complex, and they're resolved in a very complex way that has, a variety of feelings around them. And we need to be supporting the Americans who are coming home, and also respecting their privacy and letting them tell their own story. So I encourage all to do that, and to keep the folks who didn't come home in mind as well, and keep this as an issue that you care about, because bringing Americans home is imperative, and supporting each other through the process is also imperative.
Liz, thank you so much for coming on and for all that you do. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
While the U.S. Secret Service admits it mishandled security on the day former President Donald Trump was shot, the assassination attempt already forced the Secret Service director to resign. The acting director addressed a small group of pre-selected journalists today.
Every single person within the Secret Service feels the weight of what happened. This was a failure. We should have had better protection for the protectee. We should have had better coverage on that roofline.
An Associated Press NORC poll shows only a third of Americans still have high confidence in the Secret Service. The criminal case against the former president is back in the court of a federal judge. Trump is accused of trying to overturn the results of the 2020 presidential election. It returns 1 month after the Supreme Court's ruling on presidential immunity. Judge Tanya Chutkan is known to be relentless when it comes to convictions related to the Capitol riot related crimes. She has sentenced 38 people for their roles in the January 6 siege, giving them all prison time. Trump is set to make his first court appearance next week. Vice President Kamala Harris has secured enough votes from party delegates to become the Democratic Party's nominee for the 2024 presidential election. The announcement comes after the campaign said that it has raised $310 million last month. This is more than double the funds recorded by her rival, Republican Donald Trump. This weekend, she is set to meet with top vice presidential candidates. These face-to-face meetings will play a critical role in her decision. Contenders include governors, a senator in a key battleground state, and the Secretary of Transportation. One new developments today in the pushback against the controversial opening ceremonies to the Paris Olympics, especially the depiction of the Last Supper. Today, a group of 24 Catholic bishops from around the world demanded an apology from the International Olympic Committee. The strongly worded letter released earlier today says the opening ceremonies was, quote, an intentionally hateful mockery of the Last Supper. The bishops also said, quote, it is hard to understand how the faith of over 2 billion people can be so casually and intentionally blasphemed. The church leaders also call for a day of prayer and fasting. 24 bishops signed the letter. They include Cardinal Raymond Burke of Wisconsin, Archbishop Paul Coakley of Oklahoma City, and Bishop Athanasius Schneider of Kazakhstan. All right, for our analysis, we turn now to AC Wimmer, editor-in-chief of CNA Deutsch, who has been following this story all along. AC, always good to have you on. Remind us again about the opening ceremonies, in case there's those that maybe didn't see it, and why it was so offensive to the faithful.
Thanks, Tracy. It's great to be here despite the occasion. Yes, so this is a multi-million, in fact, 1.5 billion euro extravaganza that's being streamed to allegedly up to 1 billion viewers across not just the stadium, but all of Paris, the capital of France. And in amongst a number of things, including technical difficulties and other wonderful things, we got this really nasty, one might say gnarly, if you pardon the Australian expression, display of drag queens cavorting and dancing allegedly on something like a catwalk. And then all of a sudden, as they zoom out from a DJ who's showing us a heart shape with her hands, we realize we're seeing the Last Supper. It is the famous painting by Leonardo da Vinci, instantly recognized by everyone. And then in front of that pops up a rather garish figure, a man painted in blue, allegedly the god Dionysus, allegedly riffing on pagan feasts, as we were told afterwards. But the reaction, Tracy, was instantaneous. People were outraged, and not just Catholics, not just Christians, in fact, saw this as an act of blasphemy and provocation.
I want to talk about the open letter now. Who led the process of signing that letter, and what was involved in the writing process?
So we don't really know. The organizer, who is known to EWTN News as an anonymous personal group, they've really just been able to bring together what a number of bishops have been saying, particularly in the United States, but across the world. As you can see from the list of, at the moment, it's 24 signatories, 15 of them from the United States. And really it is, as you can read, it's a very short letter on Catholic News Agency in English and in a number of other languages, including Spanish, on our other platforms. It is a letter that deals with two things. Firstly, the scandal and the related demand for an apology, but secondly, also the announcement that there must be some sort of reparation, that they will celebrate the Mass, that there will be a day of prayer and of fasting. And amongst the signatories, prominent figures include, of course, Cardinal Burke, but also 2 other cardinals, prominent prelates such as Archbishop Chaput, Bishop Cozzens, who's risen to prominence really with the National Eucharistic Congress, of course. So these are not featherweights by any measure. These are really important voices that are part of the global Catholic Church, Tracy. And their intent, as I said, is twofold, not just to demand an apology, but also to speak as spiritual leaders with a view to reparation and having an appropriate response.
AC, almost out of time, but has there been any response from the IOC? And do you think the letter is going to make an impact, has made an impact, or is it less effective because it's coming after the opening ceremonies?
this is just a personal, albeit a slightly professional, of course, given my experience, interpretation, Tracy, but I think this is going to have a massive impact. The IOC is reading very closely how this continues to escalate on both sides. We're now also seeing the other side saying, changing the story, but also defending what they were saying. So I think an escalation of sorts, perhaps a good one, perhaps even one that is spiritually redeeming, may yet be on the cards.
All right, we're going to leave it right there, and we'll see what happens with the closing ceremonies. AC, always good to be with you. We appreciate it. God bless.
Likewise, thank you.
From one Olympics controversy to the next, this time over a boxing match between a female and an Algerian boxer with male chromosomes. It's the punch being argued around the world. Algerian boxer Iman Khalif defeated Italy's Angela Carini in just 46 seconds, abandoning the fight following a punch to the face. The controversy surrounds Khalif, who has both X and Y chromosomes and was banned from boxing's 2023 World Championships, but allowed to compete in Paris. Carini left the boxing ring yesterday in tears. And we have a lot more still to come here on EWTN News Nightly, including Dow Downer, a rough day for the stock market and the U.S. economy. We have the latest, and a preview of what's on the agenda for lawmakers on Capitol Hill. Today's July jobs report was the bearer of bad news, and investors on Wall Street did not take it very well. Stocks tumbled after the release of the July jobs report. After being down 700 points much of the day, it ended down 610 points. The jobs report said the U.S. economy added 114,000 jobs last month, significantly worse than predicted, to fuel fears of a recession. Congress is officially on a 5-week break after the Senate wrapped up its session yesterday. It will be their longest time away from the Capitol so far this year. Before leaving, some lawmakers told EWTN News Nightly how they think Congress is doing and what's ahead when they get back.
How much time do you have? I mean, look, we're not getting anything done. Senator Schumer's not putting anything on the floor.
We were able to get the NDAA done, bipartisan, out of committee. But one of the biggest failures is we have not seen it brought to the floor to be voted on yet, which is a great disappointment.
But Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer blames Republicans for the lack of progress.
Under orders from their candidate, Trump, they want to block everything. So that's what they did on the border, the strong, tough, bipartisan border bill we had.
Republican Congressman Chip Roy, a Freedom Caucus member, defended his GOP colleagues.
We've been driving a message to keep things on our side of the field, secure the border, stop endless wars, make sure that we have try to reduce spending, cap spending, put that in place, try to make sure only American citizens are voting in American elections. It's Democrats that have been standing in the way.
Lawmakers have their own priorities when they return in September.
I'd like to see us do Supreme Court reform and Supreme Court ethics.
Kids Online Safety Act.
We have an expired farm bill. We really need to get that done for my folks back home.
Majority Leader Schumer remains optimistic.
Things like democracy, things like passing the kinds of tax bills we're looking at that help families and the child tax credit are important. Doing more for clean energy, doing more for transportation and education are really, really important things to us.
And Congressman Roy's priority is the SAVE Act, a bill he's sponsoring requiring states to verify proof of citizenship to vote in federal elections. It's stalled in the Senate.
When we come back in September, we should make that clear. We have 3 weeks. Let's pass a CR with SAVE, and let's jam it down their throats. And if they won't do it, then we pass the CR into March and leave town.
Congressional leaders have not yet announced how they will deal with government funding, which expires on October 1st. Meanwhile, the House Freedom Caucus is losing its leader, Congressman Bob Good. He lost his recount of the Virginia Republican primary by just 370 votes to a Trump-backed candidate. Well, the House Oversight Committee has asked President Joe Biden to provide Congress with information about his administration's plea deal negotiations with 3 9/11 suspects. Committee Chairman James Comer wrote that he wanted to know why the suspects who are charged with killing nearly 3,000 people averted the death penalty. The specific terms of the pretrial agreements remain undisclosed to the public or families of the victims. You are allowing these terrorists to avoid the death penalty, signaling to our enemies that the United States is reluctant to pursue full justice against those who attack our nation. The suspects were first charged in 2008 in connection with the September 11th, 2001 terrorist attacks and are being held at Guantanamo Bay, Cuba. They have never gone to trial. All right, now to Venezuela and another round of violence against challengers to President Nicolas Maduro. Earlier this morning, a half-dozen masked assailants broke into the opposition leader's headquarters. In a 3 a.m. raid, the robbers broke down doors and hauled away valuable documents and equipment. This comes as the U.S. declared Edmundo Gonzalez the winner of Venezuela's presidential election. Other groups voiced concerns over the election results, which socialist leader Maduro claims he won. Maduro also has threatened to arrest opposition leaders. And as we mentioned earlier this week, according to a recent study, 8 in 10 dioceses in the U.S. receive formal applicants for religious life who have student loan debt, and one Catholic group is trying to help. The Labouré Society takes those who wish to enter religious life deal with student loans. In around 2 decades, thanks to the Labouré Society, 400 people have raised around $11 million to pay off student loans. We turn now to Father Daniel Bowen, the vocations director for the Mercedarian Friars. Father, great to be with you today. So tell us, how did you hear about the Labouré Society?
Actually, I met them at a National Catholic Vocations Director gathering, and they had there. I struck up a conversation with one of their representatives, Justine Bojan, and that's how it all started.
That's wonderful. For those who may not know, give us an idea of the need for vocations right now.
Yeah, in the church these days, all vocations are down in the sense of marriage or even consecrated religious life, priesthood. And there's really that need for people to come aboard and answer that call that God puts on the hearts of so many. The challenge can, of course, be there can be things that might keep them from being able to answer that call.
And what advice would you give to someone who's discerning but has the roadblock of, say, student debt?
Don't let that be a no or a stop sign. Speak with your vocation director, your spiritual director. There's ways and avenues that God will provide. If God wants it, again, we believe, right, in miracles, and He's the God of making possible what seems impossible.
Yeah, and sometimes it's scary for people, right, to ask for money, intimidating. How can that be overcome?
Well, absolutely. Especially if we're talking student loan debt, something like that. Maybe you've set out in a course in one direction, but God suddenly says, hey, I've got something else for you. There are places and people that are willing to give that hand to an individual that they may not be aware of, that a vocation director or spiritual director may have a connection with. So definitely you don't bring it to prayer, but then also bring it to an individual that actively works in vocation, religious vocation work and discernment.
Father, in doing, this, I guess, uncomfortable work of asking for money and in the delay of not being able to enter a community right away because of that, do you think that can bear any spiritual fruit during that time?
Oh, absolutely, without a doubt. And again, it's sort of a testing of the vocation. It's helping God to kind of give you your stronger legs, to be able to speak about your call to other individuals and to let them know that call to a person is, to yourself. But again, we are all within a family, right? By God's design, it's all about relationship. And so besides just, it's not just asking money, it's about helping people to support and encourage your vocation, but to bring them on board, because it's not like you're going to disappear off the face of the earth. You're going to be a summons to be a person for others. It's a laying down of your life for others. And to help them to come aboard on that is a wonderful thing. And the Labouré Society particularly gives training and formation more than just cutting a check or asking for money. Because it's more than just that.
Father, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us and about these experiences. We appreciate it. God bless you.
You're most welcome. Thank you. God bless you as well.
And for more on the story, watch EWTN News in depth tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern. Up next on EWTN News Nightly, open and shut. The Vatican makes a major announcement about the Jubilee year 2025. Tonight in the Jubilee year 2025, an initiative of grace and pilgrimage in the Catholic Church. The Holy Father has announced which holy doors will be open for pilgrims, and they're not all in churches. EWTN Vatican journalist Benedict Sidegren has more.
An estimated 35 million pilgrims are expected to gather in Rome for the 2025 Jubilee. For many attendees, this holy year is an opportunity to deepen their union with Christ and strengthen their faith.
There's really a spiritual significance for the pilgrim to come over here and, of course, to cross the most famous holy door that it's open for this specific and historical event. In fact, every 25 years.
The Jubilee will begin with the opening of the Holy Door of St. Peter's Basilica on Christmas Eve 2024. The act symbolizes the offering of an extraordinary path towards salvation and invites Christians to make the passage from sin to grace. Pilgrims who make the journey to walk through a holy door can receive a plenary indulgence under the usual conditions. In preparation for the Jubilee, the Holy Father called for 2024 to be a year of prayer. Outside the Vatican, the city of Rome is undergoing a transformation. One noticeable change: the Piazza Pia will be a more pedestrian-friendly area connecting Castel Sant'Angelo to St. Peter's Square.
As staff, we are really excited to welcome and assist everyone, and welcome especially everyone beside us, the pilgrims, and to let them discover the historical part of the city of Rome, maybe also the religious part, which the Vatican also represents as a country, and the Catholic Church.
The theme for the upcoming year is Pilgrims of Hope. As Pope Francis stressed in the papal document announcing the upcoming Jubilee, we must become singers of hope in a world marked by too much despair. In Rome, Benedict Sidegren, EWTN News Nightly.
And we thank you for watching tonight. Remember, you can follow us on social media, Facebook, X, and Instagram at EWTN News Nightly. I'm Tracy Sable. Good night, and God bless.